and I'll make some announcements that I don't want to start too early with because I don't want you to have to listen to them twice. He's also the guy who tells me, hey, Ashley, your mic is too far away from your face. Yep. Okay, let's see. There we go. All right, people showing up. Welcome to 3 key steps to landing more emails in the inbox. We'll be getting started right at 12:30. If you show up late, you'll have to catch the beginning in the replay, or you might have the luxury of having shown up early for some of these, and you know I'm going to say like 5 things and you still have time to sneak in. It's like when you go to the movie and you're not too worried that you got there right at the list time because the previews, right? So here we are, 12:30. Welcome. This is 3 key steps to landing more emails in the inbox with Brian Minick. I'm Ashley Gattuso, the marketing director at Curated. I'm going to make a few announcements before we get started. This session is in Zoom webinar mode, so we have the luxury of a chat and a Q&A. I'd love for you to drop in the chat like who you are, introduce yourself, hit us with a link to your newsletter if you have one, and get the ball rolling on engaging and interacting. Separate from that chat, though, is a Q&A section. And so the difference is the chat has one thought bubble or message bubble. I don't know if that's a technical term for that. And the Q&A has 2. It's great if you put your questions in there. You can put them as he's going because we are going to interrupt him if needed to get a question answered. But that helps us keep up with questions that we have or have not answered. Welcome, Wade. Happy to see you. Thank you for coming. I'm so excited. Wade's Apps Weekly is one of our Curated newsletter users, and he's been like learning a ton this week and sharing it with us. And he is going to be teaching us something today later. All right. His head is so full. I love it. Okay, so Q&A for questions, chat for your chat stuff. All right, so the few things that I want to announce is that we have a Slack community for this event. That community we hope will live on far after the event and keep our newsletter creators engaged and interacting with each other. There's some fun channels in there, so it's not all just event specific. There are newsletter resources. There is a newsletter jobs channel. We will take suggestions on what kind of channels would be helpful to add in there, but it is a great place to go and get advice from fellow creators, to drop a link to your latest issue, things along those lines. So love to see you in the chat to keep the momentum and the engagement up. I promise I won't be in there every day saying stupid stuff. Well, not every day. Beyond that, we do have 2 contests going on this week. One is to win a free year of Curated. That's a big deal if you enter and win that contest, and we don't have many entries right now. And it's a vote contest. So like you need to enter and then get people to vote for you. And it's really simple to enter. If you went to our session on Monday on how to launch a newsletter quickly, or you want to go find that on YouTube, that'll help you launch really quickly. What you want to do is just make a mock-up of a newsletter in the platform, and 3 grand prize winners will go away with a free year of Curated. If you don't know, Curated lets you have unlimited newsletters within your account and add unlimited users to those newsletters. So you could build an empire on us for 1 year. You can also go and vote for your favorite newsletters of 2021. We crowdsourced these nominees, and we have several categories with several amazing newsletters. So go use that to vote. You can vote once a day. You can also go get inspired by some of the newsletters on that list. And that's all I got for you as an announcement laundry list goes. It's time to get on to the main event. We are lucky to have Brian Minick of Zero Bounce with us today, and he is going to tell us all about how to make sure we're getting in the inbox in the what is the term we want to use here, Brian?
Deliverability?
Yeah, well, staying out of promotions. Right? Getting in the inbox, being delivered. These are all things that people ask us about all the time, and we know what we know we can control, and what they can control and what no one can control. But we're hoping that you add like lots of clarity to that from your unique vantage point.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It's, really a pleasure and an honor to be speaking with everyone today. So Ashley and Seth, thank you, for everything you've done and help us get this, going. So with that, would you like me to kick it off?
Screen share if you dare.
Sure, we'll do. So let me say the infamous quote here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So thank you again. I just wanted to, sorry, a little button up here. So sorry about that. Thank you for having me, and really look forward to presenting some information today. I think it'll be really helpful for people that are trying to get into the inbox, or maybe were in the inbox and have struggled to get back in it because they maybe have gotten landed in spam. And I think anyone that's ever sent email, and a lot of email, has known how difficult, troubling, disturbing. I mean, you're putting all this effort, all of this time, energy, emotion, resources, people, testing, softwares, everything is going into this, and landing into the inbox is really the ultimate desire and outcome of your marketing campaigns. And so I'll talk a little bit about today. And just as an introduction on myself, I'm Brian Minick. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Zero Bounce. And what we do is we help people with deliverability and inbox placement. That is our goal and our mission. And so everything we do is focused around that. And so I'm going to share with you today tips that we've experienced, we've helped people accomplish, as well as our own learnings. Right? We are also in this space. We practice what we preach, and we do what we advise. And so I want to share some of these tips with you, because I think we've all experienced, especially with pandemic, that email marketing is the number one piece of marketing that's happening right now. And there is a lot of competition for that piece, for that placement in inbox. There's mails coming from everywhere. And so, getting into the inbox, it's not just hard, it's a privilege once you get there. And so once you're there, you want to stay there and continue to inbox, for future campaigns. So let's get into it. Email marketing is booming, right? I think we all know this. We see USPS type mail and all the, snail mail, as we call it, going down in volume, and we see email marketing continue to increase. Open rates have increased dramatically in the past year. We believe a lot of that has to do with maybe the pandemic. More and more stuff is moving to email. Engagement is up a lot. People were bored. I think that was something that was very commonly talked about. Hit them with an email, maybe they'll make a purchase very quickly, or whatever it might be, or engage with your content. Conversions are up 17%. This is something that, really, it makes sense. It's another shift from, the physical space into the digital space, whether that's through, brick and mortar stores or even large. Everyone is going online. I'm seeing more and more small businesses prop up their online stores, even though they thought they never had a chance there. And so email marketing is a way to constantly reinforce your message, get your specials out, your promotions, your newsletters, whatever it might be. But you want people to think about you. And so that's why we do email marketing. So let's talk about some tips. We have three major tips that I'm going to talk about today. And the first one, sorry, I have one more slide before that. There's some challenges that are happening, right? I think everyone knows about the challenges with the pandemic. This has been, we had people go, and at Zero Bounce, we help email marketers. We saw a dramatic amount of people coming in that had no idea what to do, but know they needed to do email marketing. It was important, it was imperative to their business. And so the biggest thing that I think people are facing is this concept of deliverability. They are, sending your email and delivering to the inbox is significantly different than delivered, right? All the email platforms talk about delivery rate, but they never tell you where it lands. And it's kind of by design. First off, they don't want to scare you off. because most likely a lot of stuff is going into spam or maybe not delivered or hit by the spam filter. And so these are things you want to pay attention to. But what we're seeing, especially in our world where we verify email addresses, B2B email lists are churning dramatically. I think it's very obvious, there's been a lot of job shifts and there's been a lot of change in the, the business world. There's been jobs that have exploded and there's been jobs that have been crushed. And so what's happened is we've seen a lot of the B2B emails, so your business domains, a lot of those emails going bad, and then a lot more new ones coming up because of the shift in job. There's billions of emails bouncing every single day, and 16% of them will end up bouncing and landing in spam. While that might seem like, well, that's not too bad of a number, we have to remember how many we're actually sending every day. And so, this is in the hundreds of billions of emails get sent every day. So when 16% land in spam, you're probably a good chance part of that in some way. Your sending reputation suffers and your metrics decline. This is one of the biggest challenges you'll see. And we've experienced it as well. And this is what we do. And so no one's perfect here. I think we all struggle with this. We have seen campaigns start so high, open rates are through the roof. You're like, yeah, this is working, firing on all cylinders. And then next week you go to repeat it and everything cut in half. And you're like, what just happened? And then you keep going, everything's cutting. What's happening is you're probably getting listed or you're potentially landing into spam folders. And so these are some of the things that we do to combat against that. One of them, man, I'm sorry, I thought I still had these slides. The email delivery versus deliverability. Yeah, this is human and live, right? So email delivery versus deliverability. There's a major difference about these, and it's important to actually understand the difference. Delivered does not mean delivered to the inbox. Delivered means it was sent and a mail server somewhere took it. It didn't bounce back. Deliverability is getting into the inbox. It's very hard to put a rate on that. There's no such thing as a true deliverability rate. But there are things you can do that you will see the declines in the other metrics, which are the open rates, the click-through rates, converting rates, whatever you're doing past the open sent. And so we focus on deliverability. You guys all should focus on deliverability. Having a high delivery rate is good, but it doesn't tell the whole story. It's very misleading. And so what you want to understand is how many are landing into inbox. So one of the ways that we start, and it's imperative, I really recommend that you guys, if you haven't taken a look at your list, make sure they're in a really good shape. Make sure your list is, first off, it should be organic. That is, we will always practice and preach that. It should be an organic list. This should be people that are subscribing, purchasing, whatever it might be, however you collect emails. I highly recommend a double opt-in process. I constantly get questions around double opt-in. Well, it's an extra step. Well, I'm losing 20% of the people because they don't click the double opt-in. I understand the thought process, but one of the things that we have learned is that you must focus on quality and not quantity. The size of your list is not the ultimate, end game, right? I would much rather have a smaller list of highly engaged people that are active, love my content, reply, forward it, do things with it, take actions with it, than send to 1 million people and open rate is terrible. No one's clicking. That's not successful. That's not success in email marketing. You want engagement. And so keeping your list in shape is really important. One of the pieces of that is your bounce rate. So it is something you should be paying attention to. The industry standard for bounce rate is no more than 2%. So if you have a bounce rate over 2%, or you've had bounce rates over 2%, I just want to stress that, because what you've done in the past can affect you today. And if you haven't done things to fix that or to increase it or make it better, then you still might be in a bad spot through previous sets. So you want to make sure you have a bounce rate that is very low. How do you do that? Well, you need to make sure that you're checking on your list. You need to make sure you're removing the contacts that are no longer there. It's the easiest and the quickest thing you can do. You chop your list as the first thing. It's crushing. I worked so hard for this list. I did everything right. I'm doing everything. I don't want it. I don't want to take 10% of my list away. Well, that 10%, 20%, whatever it might be, every business and every company will be different. It's really important to actually shave those people off. The email addresses don't exist. The the activity behind those addresses might be really bad. They might be bots. They might return and reply to you with content that you didn't want. They're sending you viruses or malware. These are things that happen with email addresses, and you want to really get them out of your list. Another one is you want to pay close attention to your spam complaints. These are people that are marking you as spam. Okay, they're not unsubscribing, and maybe they should be. Maybe you've made it too hard for them to unsubscribe. That's also another thing. Do not make things hard to unsubscribe. I've seen a lot of people like fall asleep on the enter button and drop the unsubscribe to scroll, and then there's the unsubscribe. I understand the thought process, but you have to think differently. We don't want people to struggle to find unsubscribes. Actually, unsubscribe is a good thing. Hear me out. It's considered engagement, right? So every unsubscribe link has a link outbound. That link has the same weight in the email world of spam filters, inboxes. It has the same weight as your converting link, or sorry, your converting, your call to action or whatever you might be doing in your newsletter. So it's going to call it click. It's going to call it a click. That's how the mail servers are going to see it. So the spam filters are going to see it. Gmail will see it as a click. And it's kind of shows that they, maybe they wanted something on this content. So don't get too hung up on trying to bury this unsubscribe link and you can't send to them. If they really don't want your content, you're doing yourself a favor by letting them get out. If constantly marking you as spam is really bad. It's going to hurt your reputation. And ultimately, we're in a place where technology, I think you guys all know this, is getting smarter and smarter. They're using behavior to make decisions. So if you send to 1,000 people and 100 start marking you as spam, those other people are probably not even going to see your email because the whole system is going to start talking and saying, this is spam. So Gmail is going to rip everything out of inbox, and this will happen. They'll move things based on behavior of the engagement on your send. So just be very careful about it. Monitor your spam complaints. Honor, manual unsubscribes, which people still do, even though you put an unsubscribe link there, and make sure you give them an easy way out. Spam complaints can really, really, really hurt you, so pay attention. The other are risky emails. These are very commonly thrown onto signups, and I've seen this even in a competitive landscape. And I hate to say this, but things are out there. Things happen. I've seen competitors drop spam traps into newsletter signups on their competitor. So now you start sending emails, you're hit with a spam trap. All of a sudden you're like, what happened to my email marketing? Well, there's ways to detect these. And really you want to get it out. There's no benefit to a spam trap as a sender. And so you want to make sure you're checking the health of your list. There's also different types of emails, disposable emails, role-based emails. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the disposables are one that I do think is very important. These are what we would call burner emails. And there's many websites today you can go to, sign up, they'll send you, sorry, you don't even have to sign up, you just hit the website. They'll present you an email address that they created. It's usually funky, has characters, numbers, makes zero sense. And people will use that to get past your gated content. It happens all the time. They're concerned about their privacy, right? And so, in a sense, I understand it. And you guys should all be aware that these type of email boxes exist. What you want to make sure is that you're actually not sending to them, because it's going to bounce. So even if you did a double opt-in process, you did it perfectly, you did it by the book, you double opted in, they'll get the email, they can click it, they'll get past your gate, download your content, and kind of vanish in a sense. You want to be able to detect those type of emails and pull them out of your list. It's not the end of the world. I wouldn't try to, take that as an insult. Take it as a compliment. It's just someone who wants to remain a little bit more anonymous. And, it doesn't mean that they don't absorb your content, come back and put in their real one once they've understood more about your business. So pay attention to those type of emails. And there's some other ones that can be risky, role-based. These would be like info at, sales at, support at. These are different type of emails that typically go to large groups of people. And you just want to make sure that, these are people that really are engaging with your content. Those are risky. And I say that because you can send to info at zero bounce as an example, that might go to 30 people, right? These group emails, role-based emails, they might go to lots of people. And when they do, there's a very high chance that people mark you as spam. You don't know who's behind that group, right? And so one send can turn into 12 spam complaints. It's like detrimental. It's everything you hoped would never happen, just happened. And so, again, I would just recommend really dialing that list in, and don't be offended by a reduction. Be honored, because these should be people that are, going to engage, hopefully engage with you and keep things moving. It's all percentage game, right? So if you send to less people, but you have more engagement, what does the mail servers think about you? What do the spam filters think about you when people are forwarding and things of that nature? They give you like brownie points, right? They're like, wow, people want this. They want it. It's their job to deflect spam, right? It is what people pay for, to deflect spam. And so when you can get a really highly engaged list, it will give you a better ability to get into the inbox. Once you're in spam, it's really hard to get out. So validating a list is really important. That kind of talks about what I was saying. There's typically two ways to do this. You can do it in bulk, where you have a list, pull it out of MailChimp or whatever service you're using and upload it into a service. They'll scan it and give you back the results. And the others would be, in a real-time environment. And it's something I highly recommend. An example of this could be a sign-up form. So right on your newsletter, you have a validation that might take place with an API. And as they're typing and hit submit, you can actually reject it. Or maybe there's a typo, which is super common, especially when we're talking about mobile. I have big hands myself and fat finger things all the time. It happens. And so what we can do is actually detect a typo and present a suggested response. Did you mean, Brian at gmail.com instead of gmail.com, right? I missed a letter. And so it really will help you, because remember, if you have that double opt-in process, they never got your email. Now they think your site's broken. They don't know they put a typo in there. So it's really good to clean it when you get it, make sure it's good when you get it, and then ongoing maintenance of that, whether that's in bulk or through a system. The second one would be, one of the major points is your content. I don't care how good your list is. If you start throwing terrible content at people, it can cause a lot of issues for you. So the image to text ratio, that is very important. Making sure your images are supported by text. Avoid things like link shorteners. And I know people love them. I see it all the time. The bit.lys, the goo.gl with the slash for the tracking and all that good stuff. I totally get it, but you should be using an email service provider that can help you with the tracking, so you don't have to have layers. So they're typically, they're a riskier link. And so it's just something to be aware of. And a lot of people don't think about that. Spam trigger words, right? Another kind of probably obvious one, but some people forget it and get too excited. Maybe they have a huge promotion, free something. You start blasting the word free in your subject lines. You start throwing exclamation points in there, all caps. I mean, it's just like you're throwing the red lights up. And it's just somebody's gonna, the spam filters are not gonna like that type of stuff. Be conscious and thoughtful about the words that you're using. If it seems like spam, just use a synonym, describe it differently. Don't rely only on a keyword that you're used to seeing. Email filters are really smart. Another one is the content. Make sure you are providing content that performs best for your audience. It's super important, your audience, right? So it's, a business and a newsletter might have totally different content, and you should just be resonating towards your audience. They signed up for your newsletter for a reason. Deliver the content that they ultimately want. When you make your content engaging, you ask questions, send them a survey, things of that nature. You're creating engagement. Those clicks help. They become your friend, and then they start to build momentum. Momentum brings inbox placement. So it's very important that you guys are thinking about the content, how many images you're using, and trigger words, and test, right? There's another thing. There's so many tools out there. that can help you test whether it's the subject lines, the body, whatever it might be, spam filters, different subject lines, A/B testing everything. Take these extra steps, and it's something that we do. We're super passionate about it. Even when we think we have it perfect, we A/B test again, and we keep dividing and conquering. So, if you're at 95%, there's still 5% you can get better at. And so keep trying to get, raise that bar on everything that you're doing with your content and all that good stuff. So, and there are tools that will help with inbox placement that will show you where it landed, whether it went to an inbox folder or a spam folder. These tools are all available for you. Check them out and use them to your advantage. Again, one of the hardest things there is to do is get out of this mess. So you don't ever want to get into it, but if you're into it and you get yourself out, trust me when I say it's a pain to get out of it. You don't want to get back in it. So whether you're in it and you're trying to get out, there are ways. Be patient, because it's going to take some time and it's going to take some effort. And then just make sure, if you've never been in it, that you're not going into it. It's very easy. One send can really, really hurt you. So be aware of that. The other one that we would say is send consistently. This one is, it's important. And I'm going to put it into a totally different scenario for you here.
Oh, hey, Brian, I
Sure.
forgot to interrupt you on point 2. If you
Okay.
don't mind going back,
Sure.
we did have an anonymous question come in.
Okay.
And that was, I've heard that free and exclamation points don't trigger spam filters, and that if you have a good domain reputation, you can send those types of subject lines. Thoughts?
Sure. I would say this. If we're saying, 3 is good, then I would just caution, why use any more than 1? Is it really, really making that wow difference? Is there something else you could use, right? Think of it that way. What's really common right now is emojis. That's another thing that people are doing. I've seen a lot of people post animal pictures, and I know that sounds crazy, but everyone loves puppies. And, people are going to open your email, and if it's just to forward it because they're like, oh my gosh, honey, look at this cute puppy. I hate to say that type of stuff, but think about engagement. Think about a reaction out of your email. So to answer the question, I would say if you're comfortable with 3 and that's what you feel is working for you, your reputation is there, and you've tested that, that's probably the biggest piece here. I would say it's up to you. I would proceed with caution. Personally, we wouldn't do it.
There might be a misunderstanding. I just want to make sure that I enunciated well enough.
Sure.
It was that free and exclamation
free.
points.
No.
So it was free and exclamation points.
I would say no. There has to be a better way to describe it. And so, no. That would be our response. And as a best practice, I would not recommend, especially in a subject line, free in all caps with 3 exclamation points. If you're inboxing with that, then you're doing other things right. I will tell you that. But and here's something to think about. There are no such thing as every mail server does the exact same thing. What Gmail does, what AOL does, what Hotmail does, Yahoo, Yandex, wherever you're sending from, they all will have their own little pieces of red flags and yellow flags. And so what I would say is, what might be a green flag because you haven't gotten penalized for in one mail server, like maybe Gmail, that doesn't mean that other mail servers like it. And so, if you're here's probably a good rule. If you're unsure, the answer default to no, because you're probably thinking what people are thinking on the other side, on the mail server and spam filter side. And they're like, maybe we'll knock it down a point. Maybe it doesn't mean it's spam, but if they have that plus other things, bad reputation, things of that nature, I really do believe that there's many complex layers to this. There is not just one thing. And so I hope that answers the question, but for me, it's a no. And if our team was going to do it, we would all say no.
That would be a great resource, right? The list of words that mean free that are not the word free. Wade is asking, do emails with lots of graphics, GIFs, etc., have higher chance of landing in spam?
Yes. So, but I would say a little depends, right? So keep in mind the ratio. If your whole email is one picture, as an example, I've seen that. They'll have someone design it in Photoshop and just save as JPEG, right? Or save as PNG, whatever it is, and send that into the campaign. And if you have one image, your image to text ratio, while in print, you see it, it's not there. No, I would not go too heavy on images. Now, I have seen some exceptions to this, but where I see the exception is it's kind of a no-brainer. So Home Depot, a huge store here in the US, and something that kind of everyone expects their emails. They're going to send product catalog type emails, right? Image, description, title, price, buy now. Image, title, description, price, buy now. It's Home Depot. If you're Home Depot, you can probably get away with that type of stuff. You'll get whitelisted by these mail servers. Enough people complain, I'm not getting my Home Depot newsletters. What's going on? But if you are just starting, no, I would say, a lot of the templates that are available today do a good job of trying to help you with this. So when you go into MailChimp and you're like, I don't even have a clue where to start, I don't have a designer, they'll say, what do you want? Like a headline image with maybe 2 small images below it with some more text. They're trying to guide you. I mean, they know what will work and what won't work. So use some of the templates and fill the content. Don't just stuff it with images. And also linking images can be a flag. And so, sometimes they're used to mislead people, and then you tap it on your phone and you get a quick click and then an immediate bounce off the website. It's just bad practice. And don't try to trick people through email. That would be kind of my best way to think about it. People are smarter. We've come a long way, and don't try to disguise it just to get the click. If they want to click it, it's because you've done something right. It's the right content, it's the right product, it's the right topics, and really you want those type of people on your list. So focus on getting the right people. Don't focus on quantity, focus on the quality of the list.
All right. This has been interesting because it started a flurry of questions. So I have 2 more to ask, and then we're going to pause and keep moving with your presentation. But I'm loving these questions. Okay. When you say avoid link shorteners because it may trigger spam, does that include vanity URLs? On occasion, our brand uses them when our content is not yet live, but will be before the email sends. So we set up a redirect. Could this be a negative effect? Could this have? Excuse me.
That's a great question. I would say it probably depends upon the vanity. If you're maybe doing it on a subdomain of your own website and it's using the relevance of your main website as part of it, you're probably okay. Here's how I would think about it. We've all gotten spam emails, right? And when I mean spam, I mean malicious. Where they're click here for your Amazon gift card, and it's I didn't get a gift card. They're using those bit.ly links, they're using those Google links because they want to see how many people are clicking too. And so I would really just stay away from link shorteners, because also most ESPs that I'm aware of, actually don't really know of any that don't. I'm sorry as well. I'm getting over a cold, and so a lot of talking. But as you're getting through, most ESPs will rewrite your URLs anyway, because they need to track your clicks. So, just keep in mind how many steps there are. And then you can run into what I have seen is too many redirects, and then the page won't resolve for whatever reason. So just be cautious of that and certainly test everything. But I think you're probably okay with a vanity URL as long as you're consistent with that vanity URL as well. That would be something I would say. If you only used it once and you only use it once for every send and it's new every time, I wouldn't recommend that. Be consistent with it if you're going to use it.
Okay. All right. So another question that we had, okay, here we go, was most inbox server provider blocks images and pixels. Is there any way to track open rates in such case? In such cases, I'm sorry, I'm reading like I don't know how to speak. But Basically,
Sure.
you got the question. You know what they're asking.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are tools that will help you. I think it depends. I would need a little more context to your question, but if it's a newsletter that you're sending through an ESP, you should be able to get tracking of some sort. I mean, I don't know an ESP that doesn't track the clicks and the links, but I see also a lot of emails go out personalized through I'm just using Gmail, I'm not plugged by them, just for the record, but if you do a lot of maybe personalized emails through Gmail, there are some good tools that can lay on top of Gmail to help you with this type of stuff. But pixel tracking, click tracking, this is all going to get really interesting here, guys. iOS 14 is coming with a massive tweak to things that are changing the way we can track. I will tell you this, and we experience it firsthand, and I'm the COO. It is my responsibility to drive revenue, drive sales, new customers, all these things. Do not assume that you can attribute and track every single thing that you do. There's going to be an unknown area. And so, here's what I would say. Try it. And yes, there are tools out there that can do it. I don't want to plug anybody. There are tools that can do it. Test it again, test it again and again. Make sure things are working, you're inboxing. And if that's working, then you can go for it. But you should have some tracking from your own ESP as well. So maybe more context to that question, I could answer it better. All right, should I keep going?
Yes, I say keep going, and then Betson, I'll ask yours in a little bit. I know we're going to probably get into a lot of nuanced questions about what triggers spam filters. So I'd love for you to move into section 3, and then we'll come back and circle and
let's do it.
Be vultures about this.
So the sending consistently, super important. And one of the examples I wanted to give was, and I've used this before, and I hope it resonates with this audience because it's a totally different area, but it has a similar concept. So send consistently. What does that mean? If you are sending at 10 a.m. on a Monday, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, 4 a.m. on Wednesday, this is too much mail to send, by the way, but if this is your pattern, take a step back and put a cadence together that has been working for your audience. Sometimes that's 9 a.m. It may depend upon what you're doing. Sometimes it's 8 a.m. before people start their job and they're just browsing email on their phone. But send consistently and send around the same times all the time. Why is that important? So when mail servers see the mail coming in, they make decisions about it, right? Should I deliver it? Should I bounce it? Should I, what's the content? How does this look? Again, remember, their job is for the customer, for the person that holds the inbox. It is not for you. They don't work for you. You work for them. So sending consistently, a good kind of analogy to this is, think of, if you get home delivery as an example, maybe FedEx comes to your house, drops off a package. You're expecting that package, and you've just known historically that FedEx comes to your doorbell between 12 and 1. It's their pattern. It's typically when your package comes. If that guy shows up at 10 p.m. and knocks on your door, I don't know about you, but most people I know is going to be like, who the heck's on my door? What are they doing? You might have expected the delivery, but they don't come at 10 p.m. Who is this? You will raise caution, right? If you have cameras, you're going to check your camera. If it's 1 p.m., you're going to be like, hey, FedEx is here, right? That's going to be your thought process. And so mail servers are thinking about you in a similar way. Who is this guy? Okay, he sends at 10 p.m. All right, that's fine. And they will continue to understand your sending pattern. They'll expect your email at a certain point, and it will be in a place where it's a little bit more friendly. So my recommendation here is, and you can test this, don't feel stringent, to a point where you have to be down to the minute, but be down to a certain time frame, between maybe a 1 to 2 hour range where you're sending newsletters that are consistently hitting. And maybe you have to segment. That's another thing, I didn't really talk about this, but it could be very important for your placement. Segment your audience sometimes. Don't be so scared. Not everyone deserves the same message. An easy one to think about here is if you sell clothes. You have, male and female clothes. Don't put that in one email, right? Understand your audience. Send the males the male clothing, the females the female clothing. it would just make a little bit more sense. And so, be consistent, but segment if you have to. Gender wouldn't be a reason to segment your list for time, but maybe region is. If you're an international company, as an example, you might want to segment your US to a certain time, and you might want to segment your Europe to a certain time, because it would resonate better with the audience, right? And so just be consistent with it. The mail servers will start to know you, right? And it's like seeing the FedEx guy coming down the street at 12:30, and you wave to him, he waves back, you're expecting him. So, that's kind of my advice here on timing. Keeping your IP warm, this is another thing. I've seen a lot of people, they're like, hey, Brian, I've got 2 million records. I haven't mailed these guys in 6 years. We had an old person who never did anything, and now I took over. I'm going to mail these guys today. Okay. Caution. You can't send too much at once, and you can't just blast, you can't go crazy. You need to be, predictable with your sends, and you need to warm your IPs up. So if you just have one, that's fine, or you're using MailChimp, that's fine as well. They're doing a good job trying to help you keep that stuff warm. And again, I have no affiliation with MailChimp, just I think it's commonly known. And so, send it around the same time and increase volume over time. If you already have a huge list and you want to send it to them, don't just mail the whole thing at once. Take a piece and mail it. And, I already probably feel this is a lot of work. Well, email marketing is a lot of work. I think we all know this. If you're doing it, it is a lot of work. And think about how much, I just think about our team. How many people touch our pieces, every piece of email marketing? It's touching 4 or 5 people. We have content, we have image, we have send, we have monitoring, the person that has to receive, any activity that's happening. Don't go to waste with it and lose all that effort that you put into it. Just find a pattern that works and be consistent with it. Another one is avoiding the complaints. Send your newsletters to people that build trust and engage with you. I would highly recommend, if you have a list and let's say it's 2 years old, 5 years old, go through your latest sends, maybe take your last 10, 20, 30, whatever it might be based on your cadence, and focus on the ones that are doing something with your list, with your emails. Use your engagers to your advantage, right? If you have been sending an email to somebody every week for 3 years and they've never opened it, why are you sending it to them? Why? I mean, I would love someone to give me a good reason. That's a quantity over quality thing. Remove them. You're probably doing yourself a favor. You might not even know it. So take a look at your list, dissect it a little bit, look at some of your results, and navigate the waters into a place where you're creating a newsletter that is going to highly targeted, highly focused, and highly engaged customers or newsletter readers. And from there, again, it's all about the engagement. When your open rate now doubles because you have removed all these people that don't even open your email, maybe they marked you as spam and they don't even get it anymore, it just goes to the spam folder. I promise you're not doing yourself any favors. So look at it. If they haven't engaged, I would even tell you, if they haven't engaged in a year, remove them, at least segment them, call them non-engaged, and pull all the other the other engaged into an audience and send to that list. See what happens. Try it. And what is the worst that happens? You send a second send to your non-engagers. So try things, but be a little strategic about this stuff. What I constantly see is, shotgun, just blast away, right? Pop, and spray and pray, right? I think that's the term. So, I just highly recommend, unless you are a brand that every single person in the world knows, which probably isn't us, and I hate to say that, but it's just the truth. You really got to be careful and be conscious to what you're doing. Everybody's fighting for inbox placement. Everybody. This is, and there's people who don't even think about it. That's actually an advantage to everyone here because we're thinking about this, right? We are knowing we're struggling with something or know that there is an issue that you're trying to get past. And so, I do hope that these, while very high level tips, I do hope that they were helpful, for people here. And there is a ton more. I mean, I could talk about this for probably 24 hours. I would just not want to be sick when I did that. But, you know, there's so
Sounds
much
like
that can really be done
Newsletter
here. Yes. So I do want to give people, you know, if you want to open it up more for QA, Ashley, for any of the questions, because I love questions.
Awesome. Okay, we got a couple waiting in the queue and people start adding them. We have about 15 minutes of Brian's time. I'm going to speak slowly so you can drink water and
Thank you.
breathe.
Sorry.
No, I'm a mama, so I have a nurture kind of mentality. Like I suddenly want to take care of you. Okay, so can multimedia elements also trigger spam filters like audio and video?
Good one. So I'll tell you what I've seen, and I've seen it. I would say some of this might depend upon your use case. If you're kind of cold emailing versus maybe nurturing, there might be a difference here. But I've seen cold emails with, you know, there's a lot of softwares. Again, I don't want to name drop anybody, but there's softwares that will make like an animated GIF for you, and people or GIF. Sorry, I don't actually know.
We are on the fence as well. I change it based on if I know you prefer one way or another, because I'm that good of a marketer.
I was well, you said Seth's the tech guy, so I was waiting for the facial reaction of but I'll cover both. So whether you send in a GIF or a GIF, I've seen them where they'll hold up a sign that's like, "Hey Ashley, it's me." You know, they're trying to show something very personal. They actually took time, sent you a quick video, and the only way they could describe that was to send like a screenshot of it that had, you know, your name on it, and they actually wrote it on a whiteboard. It's really a pretty powerful technique. It takes a lot of time, but it's a quality thing. So, you know, if you are sending multimedia and that's what you do, and that's what people are, you know, maybe you send videos. Maybe that's what your business is. You're a video business, whatever it might be. So if you're consistently doing it and you're seeing good results from it, I think it's okay. If you are sending people for the first time, I wouldn't recommend it. To be honest with you, I would put that on the landing page, right? If that's what you're trying to accomplish and that's really what you want people to see, put an image up that might, you know, resonate with it. But don't flood things with multimedia. You know, videos and audio, I think depends upon, and also the file types. It gets complicated. You need converting things and you know, converting the files into different formats. And I would stay away from it. It is really kind of our stance. We don't do it as a company when we do email marketing, because again, if you're on the fence about something and you can easily move that object onto a website or onto a landing page or onto a video explainer, I would encourage you to do that, because number one, you're also moving it from a read or an open, sorry, to a click, right? So now you're getting kind of that double whammy, right? An open is good. A click is great. A forward is amazing, right? And unsubscribe is okay. So if you can get somebody onto that next step and your click-through ratios are coming up and all that type of stuff, it's really just going to work in your benefit. So tease them, you know, hey, I released you. Maybe you make beats for a living. Hey, I got a sound clip for you. Want you to hear it, you know, whatever it might be. But creating that click is really what you do want.
Awesome. Hey, let's stop the screen share. Everybody, Do you see Brian's email address? If you want that, it's brian@zerobounce.net. I'm just thinking that you're like spitting truth bombs, and we would love to have this recorded in speaker mode so that we can share it with you and you can share it with your people and show them how much you know.
Now I can see the questions.
Awesome. Okay, so the next one is my ESP offers send time optimization. What are your thoughts on that?
So I like it. They're doing it because there's obviously a reason, right? So what they're doing is probably making it more programmatic than you can do, especially in a you know, again, region will play a huge role here. Time of day can play a huge role. It depends upon your audience. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I would encourage you to try it for sure. If you see better statistics coming out of it, better conversions and ultimately better results, obviously it's working in your favor. So yeah, I would recommend it. And they're probably using logic based on their whole platform, right? So when platforms are trying to be cutting edge and put out new features for you, they're on your side. The ESPs are on your side. The spam filters are not. And so, when the ESPs are offering features, and we do it too, right? We offer a new feature because we're on your side. We're trying to help you get, every little advantage helps. So yeah, I would definitely do it and take a look at the results from it. And maybe even if you want to, sometimes what I've seen is you can take a programmatic concept that that they'll offer, run it, and then take the results and maybe tweak it into a manual process that you control, but you let them figure out how to get you there, right? And so, yeah, I would highly recommend it, and give yourself, if you're comfortable, give yourself maybe the ability to do that manual override after you've gotten a few runs through.
Wade, do you want to come on and ask your question? Seth can promote you. He said, sure. All right. And I think this one's actually for the Curated team now that I'm reading it.
Whoa. I've never went from webinar to Zoom call. I didn't even know that was a possibility.
Guess
Cool.
what? After this, he has to do something called like downgrade you. You were
Demoted.
upgraded. You were upgraded, and then you will get downgraded.
I've never had that before. All right, very well. My question was, okay, so I was wondering, the curating your email list is kind of like an interesting idea there. I never thought about the people that aren't looking at the emails. I was wondering, does Curated have any tools? Can I see who's not opening my email so I could trim the fat, or even like potentially like, and then this might be more of the Brian question there, would be like, can I reach out to them in a personal way and be like, hey, it's Wade, the author of Apps Weekly, real quick. If this isn't for you, no big deal. I just want to like make sure. Like, do people do that? Almost like maybe you bring them back in, or maybe it's like, okay, it's a clean breakup.
All right, so I'm going to try to handle this to the best of my knowledge, and then Seth may step in, and then anything that we really are like stupid about, we'll get Caitlin to correct us. I don't think she's on this session, but what I can tell you is that you can like resend a confirmation. Is that the right phrase, Seth? It's like,
yeah, it's a reconfirmation message.
So you can send a reconfirmation message to people who haven't opened, but there is not a view right now that like you can just go in and say like, show me everyone who hasn't opened. So what you can do is request that we look at that for you and give you a report, basically. And so I have on occasion been like, hey, Caitlin, can you tell me people in the last 6 months who haven't opened? And then determine from there if of those people who I want to do a reconfirm with. I'd love to set up something where you can put that like personal touch in, but you can change the messaging in the reconfirmation message to be that personal thing. So like, hey, we noticed you haven't opened in a while, and get that re-engagement going so that it doesn't feel like you're just like, hack them out, right?
Yeah, I like it. Plus like the touch that would be like, potentially instead of sending it through whatever email you use for the newsletter, you could send it as that personal email and just try to create the bond again kind of idea. I don't know. That's a neat idea. I never really thought about the idea of clipping the list of the people that aren't reading it. And that's where that idea came from.
Yeah. Now to remember, there's the whole like tracking pixel thing. So if they have images turned off and they're not showing, that's where your open rate could be slightly under what your actual open rate is, because if they didn't click on anything, but they did open and they have that images not showing, that's where there's like a margin of error. All right, you ready to be downgraded? I love it. Okay, so we have a question from Santosh. Do you want to be brought on? I can ask the question if not. Dun, 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 dun. I will ask the question. And then like the moment after I ask it, they'll be like, sure, yeah, bring me on. So wants to know whether DMARC plays an important role in inbox placement or not. DMARC.
Yes. So it's a little more technical than I'm overly comfortable speaking about. However, we had an example this week with Zero Bounds that DMARC was the reason people weren't getting. It's not even inbox placement. People weren't getting the email. And it was through we use an affiliate tracking system for people that want to sign up as affiliates, just painting the picture. So again, this happened Tuesday. Ticket back and forth. Hey, these people aren't getting the emails and everything's set up. What's the problem? They dig through the server log, come back, fail to, I'm not going to say it properly, mismatch DMARC, something of that nature. And then they sent it to us. I had to get 3 guys on my tech team to help me figure out how we're going to get this going. They came up with 3 solutions. We changed it, asked this person to, hey, request another email. Boom, they received the email. So yes, absolutely, DMARC is going to play a role. I mean, all of your DNS, all of this stuff plays a role. Your SPF records, your DKIM. There's tools out there that will help you to evaluate this stuff too, right? So all that stuff that's in the header that no one pays attention to besides the mail servers, those play roles in getting into the inbox. So there are mail server testers out there that you can send an email to, and they'll scan it and evaluate the headers and evaluate everything about it, evaluate the server you're sending from, the IP address, everything about it, and give you a report back. And so, yes, I would highly recommend if you have flags that are, especially when it's easily fixable, right? You might need the right resource. Don't get me wrong, that's not always easy to find, but Google it, ask around. If you're in the email space, people should be able to point you somewhere. But yes, absolutely, you want to make sure everything in regards to DNS and all that is configured properly, because it says you're an authorized sender too, right? So you do want to make sure that this stuff is configured properly. There's a lot of spoofing happening. I think we all know about this. And if they detect what they think is spoofing, but it's not, they don't know. They're going to default they're going to err on the side of caution, right? As you would hope a spam filter would. They'll err on the side of caution. So yes, it could make a major difference.
I don't see any questions, but I have one because now I'm curious. ESPs that have a lot of code that you might not be using, right? Like the code that's in there if you're doing dynamic content. And I will preface this with we don't have that, but I know I have used systems before that have that. Does that excess code play any role?
We've experienced this as well. So with our own newsletters, I would say yes. If you have if you have what I would say a bloated template, that might be a good way to say that, because at one time you need it. I don't know about you guys, but how I've always seen email marketing done is copy a campaign, the template and all, and then create, restuff the content, insert images, links, all that, right? At some point, I'm willing to guarantee you tried to do something funky on your template. You tried to create another row. You don't know what happened. You don't know HTML. You're like, all right, whatever, send. Now you've copied that over and over, and you've had another scenario come up. You're like, oh, I want to put this horizontal image in that I'm not used to seeing, or the vertical image, whatever it might be. Yes, I would recommend that people kind of have a clean template, right? And that's what you're actually copying. You're not copying your old campaign over and over and over again, because I do think you bring some of that, I'm just going to call it like excess weight. I don't know what else to call it here, but it's the same thing with a web page. If there's a lot of, excess HTML that doesn't need to be there, it's affecting your speed, performance. Google doesn't like it. So yeah, absolutely. I would get rid of kind of anything that you don't need. And in the case that you're not sure, start over. I mean, is it the end of the world to reinsert your Facebook link? Just start over, get these things back in, and call it your clean template. And that's what you use for every time you're going forward. So yeah, pull it out if you can.
Ooh, Seth, maybe this makes the argument against what we want, which is some reusable items, because Curated
I
makes you start fresh every time. Like it
I
reuse
do like
markdown.
reusable. Yep. And I do like reusable. I really do. But I'm cautioning, I guess, the person that's never thought about this
Uh-huh.
and has just used the same template for 3 years now. And they have, I mean, murdered this thing. And I mean, I don't know a better way to say it, right? I mean, we've all been there and we've all, hey, I had to call or Ashley, maybe you called Seth. Hey, Seth, can you put this image in? It's not working properly. Seth's like, sure, and rips it apart. But the image is in there. Looks beautiful. But you don't know what he did. And Seth won't take that.
Yeah, it's all
You know,
there was a writer, I feel like she works on the newsletters at the New York Times, and I curated a piece that she had written, and she explained it beautifully because she said that there is like an iceberg effect. So it's like,
yeah,
here's what you see, and here's everything you don't see, and that is why you're getting clipped. So it's interesting that the same reason like Gmail might clip is also a reason that you might not land where you want to land. One like really fundamental question that I think is important to ask before we finish all of this is, what do you consider strong open and click rates? Like, what is the goal that you hope a client to achieve? Like,
yeah. So, what we hope for is, and sometimes it's a long shot. So this is not a blanket statement. I think I have to start this because I don't want someone to get upset or frustrated.
mm-hmm.
I can tell you that when we are doing kind of some cold marketing, maybe I should start there. Cold marketing, cold emails, trying to warm and nurture people. If we're getting into the 20 and 30% open rates, we're pretty happy. We've seen things go and increasing up into the high 30s for open rates. That for us is pretty good. I mean, I think it's, when you're talking about cold email, that's really good actually. So that's where I would say we're about and what we strive for on the cold side. For clicks, that's always a tricky one. Depends upon what your call to actions are, what's your goal, because sometimes it's a reply, depending upon what you're doing. But if you're doing a newsletter and it's a click and that's your goal, I would say be happy with a 20% kind of open rate, and hopefully you're getting a 5 to 8% on top of that click-through rate. You want higher. If I say a number that's too high, I don't want to scare someone off and then they go freak out that everything they've done is a disaster, right? Here's what I would say. Every audience, every business will be different. And what's important is to determine a baseline for you. And your goal should always be to up that baseline, right? And create, I'm an operations guy, so everything's percent and numbers for me. But, create a strategy to month over month, I want a 5% increase. That might only be 10 more people clicking the email, but, have a strategy, have a plan and a goal and strive to get there. Because, again, there's no two businesses that are the same and no two newsletters that are the same. I've been fortunate enough to work with a company that sends puppy photos. I'm not joking. The click-through rates and the open rates are insane because everybody just likes it. So, you can do something dramatic to change things, and don't be scared to test it. Even take a small sample and try something. Put a funny clip in there, at the beginning of a Monday morning. Who doesn't want to laugh when what Monday morning looks like, right? Monday morning for everyone is almost a disaster. And so when it comes into the workplace, so anything that kind of brightens it or eases it up, it's always helpful. Another thing I've seen people do, and this might sound, weird but it was very effective. It was local to me, but they would send me every day the weather report for the morning, for the afternoon. I didn't want it. It just was part of the signature. I didn't ask for that. And they would send me any local event that was happening the next 2 days. Had nothing to do with their newsletter, but they added that piece. And I will tell you, every single time it made me open it. I just naturally started to open it because there was a little extra piece that I wanted. And I can tell you, I remember this person's name. I never spoke to her. I never really ended up buying anything from her, but I engaged with her content. So sometimes she had something like, hey, there's a huge thing going on next month. Click here to see what it is. And I would do that. So, use some things that people are using every day, and you can incorporate it. It doesn't have to ruin and sabotage what your overall goal is. But, that's an example of a clever way that I found that even me in this space was like, not bad, you know, and,
Mhm.
and I have to imagine if I'm doing it, that many others are as well. Because if those two pieces didn't exist in the footer of the newsletter, I can probably tell you I would just mark as read, you know,
Mm.
or eventually unsubscribe. But it was a really kind of neat piece that someone did. I even responded and said, "This was awesome, like really smart, good job." Right? So be different, you know, don't be like every other newsletter.
Yeah, I love that. When we had Margot Aaron speaking earlier in the week, she said something that was pretty powerful and it stuck with me. And I think it's a great thing to end on, because you had a section in there about, like, ultimately deliver the content you said you weren't going to deliver, right?
Yep.
Make good on the promise of this opt-in that you have requested. And so what she said is that it's not annoying if they're in the market. So your cadence, or however often you're sending, or what, like if they are getting the thing you told them you would be sending them, that they wanted to receive, that they signed up to receive, that then you have people opening, then you have people clicking, because you are highly aligning what you are sending with what they want to get, right? And I think that's super true for a newsletter, because if I subscribe to something and then I realize its true intention is different than what I subscribed to, right? Then I'm going to stop opening it. Then I'm going to start considering unsubscribing. Then I am not someone who is helping you achieve the inbox results you want to achieve. All right. Any more
Perfect.
questions before we close out? We went a little over, but it was fascinating. And I'm excited about these new relationships and the answer. Like now I'm like, I know who we can start asking questions to.
Sure,
Um,
anytime.
so thank you, Brian Minick from Zero Bounce, and appreciate everyone who joined us, Curated team members and not Curated nominee team member, Wade Sellers. For coming on the screen, and see you all again at, I believe, like, don't let me say it incorrectly, I believe we have 2:00 paid sponsorships, or both, with Jake Schunberger of Swapstack. After that, we have Anam Hussein of Below the Fold at 3:00, talking about how to manage your newsletter like a product. And then after that, the lovely Curated team will be returning again to get you to some advanced link collecting. But thank you all for joining us. It was a lovely lunch session. We look forward to seeing you later in the day. Seth, if you don't mind dropping the Slack link in there one more time, I would love for everyone who was in attendance to be present there as well if they want to be. It's an opt-in as well, but we would love to get your feedback. It's been amazing. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Closes.